Code followed by the.
I'm gonna try to connect to the laptop.
Have it. I think that this will work. Pound again.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started here. We have everyone kind of settled in. Thank you for waiting for everyone to get logged in and get going. So for those of you that haven't joined us on a webinar before, we're using GoToWebinar, which has a really great functionality that allows you to ask questions as we go throughout the presentation today. So if you're curious about anything or want us to dive deeper or maybe stay on a topic a little longer, let us know. We're happy to kind of take those questions. We'll answer them as they come, and then we'll also have a Q&A at the end. So keep that in mind as we're going through today. If you're a little more curious or maybe didn't quite understand something or didn't catch something, just let us know. We're happy to kind of go deeper into that. So we have 3 folks from the Social Tables team here today, and I'll let them do introductions and kind of why they're on the webinar. But for the most part, I think the key thing to know about Social Tables and why we're here today talking about this is, we do talk to thousands and thousands of hotels and hotel users, essentially on a daily basis. Social Tables has, over 5,000, hotel and venue customers and, looking at upwards of 100,000 users. So we do talk to people in the industry quite often, and we wanted to kind of bundle some of that up and share it with you based on what we're hearing and what we're seeing from our customers and the people that we're talking to. So that's kind of a general idea of what we're going to focus on. Really quickly, I'm Trevor Lynn, Chief Marketing Officer. I also head up our product team, and I'll kind of be leading and throwing questions to both Meredith and Melissa. So I'll let them introduce themselves. Meredith, you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith. I am the Director of Professional Services here at Social Tables. So my team works with all of our customers to get everybody up and running and successful as fast as possible. A little bit about me, I do actually come from the world of hotels as both a group sales manager and then a catering sales manager. So I'm going to be shedding a light on kind of what our existing customers are learning and telling us, and then what I experienced myself in the hotel world.
And my name is Melissa Rausch. I'm an account executive here at Social Tables. So I work with getting all of our new business, and whether that's hotels, venues, associations, planners, kind of have a wide breadth of knowledge in terms of talking to both the supply and demand side. And I also actually have an interesting hospitality background, kind of grew up working in hotels all my life, so definitely have a lot to offer there as well.
Great. All right, we're going to get into some of the slides and get going. So thanks so much, everyone, for your time. And if you're trying to budget and figure out when you'll be able to, hop out of here, this will be at least 30 minutes and definitely not more than an hour, kind of depending on Q&A and things like that. So that's kind of the timetable we're working with today. So we'll probably look to end at maybe say a little bit past 2:30, but ideally not keep anyone past 3 o'clock. So let's get going. So I mentioned Social Tables briefly. For those of you that don't know, we are focused on the hospitality industry, and we have, different types of group management technology. And really, we're helping both people on the property side and on the planner side. We'll touch on that a little bit, but for the most part, we're building online collaborative software that both planners and properties can work together. And we have, some awards in the background that we've won, some for our company, things like Top Places to Work, but also technology within the industry, like Event Technology of the Year. If you're familiar with the, formerly ISIS, now ILEA, Industry Innovation Award, top 25 most influential people in the meetings industry. Our CEO won that. So we have some awards that we're proud of, and always just like to give everyone a little bit of context. In terms of how we operate today and how you can kind of think about us is we're really focused on the group management space, specifically group sales. So we have products that help you kind of attract and win more business, and also upcoming release of a sales and catering CRM. We also have event services. That's what everyone knows us for. This is our, event design, event layout, diagramming solution. Some of you might be a customer of that. And then we also have tools that are kind of planner facing. So these are tools that, we allow properties to extend to the planner at no extra cost to the property so that they can be planning collaboratively online with their planner customers. Just so you know, and I mentioned this before, chat windows available. Chat in anytime you have a question, and we'll get back to you either privately via chat response, or we'll open it up for the whole audience if it makes something, if it's applicable to everyone. If you don't need to take notes, or you don't need to think about sharing this with a teammate or screenshotting slides, we'll send these to you. You'll get an email from us that'll have a link to the presentation so you can watch it anytime. And if you have any questions around our products or anything in particular, you can just email hello@socialtables.com socialtables.com. We'll get back to you. And if you're currently a customer and you think of something more related to your account, you can always reach out to support@socialtables.com, and they'll get back to you as quickly as possible. So with that being said, we'll get into the webinar. So one of the things that we do at Social Tables often is we're polling our customers and our audience of users. So our kind of full audience of users is about 250,000 users, both on the planner and the hospitality professional side. And one of the survey responses that I thought was pretty amazing that kind of helped us lead to this webinar was this question around, do event professionals believe properties need to invest more in technology for groups and meetings? So we asked that question to both properties and planners, and we had about 96% of respondents reply yes, that there is an investment needed. So that's kind of why we thought this webinar would be timely. And one of the things that you can see from an industry report, so this is kind of a CVent related report with Skift, but there's a lot of legacy systems being used when it comes to technology between the venues and the hotels and their event planners. So, people are in their daily life, they're using iPhones, they're using really great software, really easy to use software, but when it comes to doing business with a hotel or a venue, they run into a lot of walls where it's just not as great of an experience. And for the hospitality industry, always providing the highest level of service to their customers, it's not always easy to buy from a hotel or venue. It's usually a great experience, working with them and the amount of hospitality people receive, but that buying experience, the interaction experience isn't great, so that's what we're going to focus in on today. So there's one of the problems I think for everyone is there's a lot of technology to manage. It depends on the type of property that you are, what type of revenue do you look for, where are you weak, maybe where are you already strong, you probably implemented something last year already, and what are you looking for next year? So, obviously there's marketing software, there's the OTAs, there's catering software, people need to start thinking about security, and then there's things that are a little crazier like a chat bot, things that are not as well proven in the industry that everyone has to think about. So there's lots and lots of choices, but the key is, what can fit into your budget, what makes sense. So I'm going to pause on this slide and ask our resident experts. I'm curious, Melissa, I'll start with you. What are you hearing from people when they're talking about technology? What's top of mind, whether it's do they need to integrate into? What are they also shopping for when they're maybe looking at social tables? What's coming up a lot that you're hearing about?
Yeah, I think with the two different groups of people that on the supply and demand side, I think for planners, they're typically looking for more of the registration side, so anything that's going to connect to their event services and check in and those types of tools for on-site event management. I think from a property standpoint in general, it's typically with their sales and catering system, so having something to anything from managing the leads all the way down to setting up BOs and actually putting contracts together. And that obviously being able to link up with our diagrams or having some sort of connection is definitely helpful from everybody I've talked to.
Awesome. So a little bit of insight there from people that we've talked to, and let's get into our agenda. So first things first, we're going to talk about some venue sourcing engines. So these are going to be ways that you can help generate more business for your property and what you can do there. We also have RFP management technology. So we know one of the issues that's hitting the industry is with the ease of an eRFP where planners can send out 10 or 15 or 20 RFPs for one event. It's becoming really, really a big burden for most places to be able to respond quickly in a way that they're proud of. So how do you manage that, and how do you manage who you respond to and where do you put your time? Revenue management is also a big topic. I think one of the interesting things is thinking about revenue management in the context of group business. A lot of revenue management systems sort of take this in, but there's more steps that you could probably do as a property to make sure that your property is tying revenue management to your group business and make it a little easier to work with those revenue managers. And fun fact, we'll talk to Meredith about that because in a past life, Meredith was on the track to be a revenue manager at a property, so she has a lot of really great insight there. We'll also talk about event management technology for the property. So, most people, some people's event technology stack kind of ends with maybe sales and catering, and there's just a lot more there that a property can do to work with a planner to make that experience better. So we'll get into some of those. And then we'll talk a little bit about digital marketing. What are some ways that you can increase the number of leads or maybe grab more leads from your website or from other sources. So that's kind of the agenda for today. So here's the first technology is around venue sourcing. And this is a kind of a quote from our CEO is, the idea of investing in direct marketing channels is something that we think is going to be a really big push for 2019 and something that you should consider, because a lot of the third party, the push to move away from third parties and have that direct relationship with your customers is happening on the transient side. And there's technology now available on the group side. So if you haven't really thought about optimizing channels or how you can get more business from group with technology, there are definitely products out there. Social Tables has some of those products. We'll go over some other companies that have products as well. So tip number one is around venue sourcing. So here we go. This is something that we like to talk a lot about because that second bullet point, over 50% of planners start their venue search on the web. And the interesting thing is that 43% of group revenue was intermediated by a third party. So two things to think about there. One, if 50% of planners are starting on the web, what does your web experience look like from a group standpoint? It's probably pretty good on the transient side, but when's the last time you tried to, book a group through your website and test that experience? And then number two, potentially half of your group business is coming from a third party, and you have to think about why that is. So one of the reasons we think that is because it's difficult to do business with a property directly. It's not easy. It's hard to find the right contact, getting people to respond, get pricing, having the right person that can give you rates and dates, things like that. So most people outsource it because it's difficult. So one of the things that we like to talk about is how can you be more visible to be online, but then also be online and not have to go through a third party. So that's something to think about, and we have a few slides on that. Here are a few things that we think can help your conversion rates. So when you're looking at different listing websites and different places to put your information online, things that you'll want to invest in or things that you want to have ready, high resolution photos of the meeting and event space itself. Room photos are great, but they can find those anywhere online, and it's not something that is difficult to find, but the specific meeting content is important, and it's not something that people have readily available. The second piece is floor plans and dimensions. So understanding not just, what is the capacity, but also how is the room shaped, what does that look like? And I'm going to kind of pause right there and ask Meredith. So from a hotel standpoint or a hotel sales standpoint, can you explain a little bit more about why the difference between floor plans and why that's important and not just having capacity charts?
Yeah, the best example I've heard and used to describe this is kind of like when you are going to see a concert or a sporting event. You're going to purchase your tickets and you go online, and when you click into where your seats would be, you can see where in relation to the stage or the court or whatever you're trying to look at, those seats are, and you make your decision based off of that. So having your floor plans available online is similar to that for a meeting planner or anybody just kind of browsing throughout venues. It helps them really conceptualize how they fit inside of your space. And added bonus is it gives them the information they need up front. So by the time they get to you, they already know your property, they know what you can handle, they know how everything will fit. So they're so much closer to being ready to buy by the time you start speaking to them.
Perfect. And I think that's another good example of people are using certain technology in their daily lives, and then they come to work with potentially a hotel or a venue, and it's taking them back in time. So people are picking their seats online for concerts and for sporting events, and then they come to a hotel, and it's just a black box with some pictures. So things to think about as you get in the mind of a planner, and maybe if you do your own website evaluation, what will you find? So two other bullet points there: proximity to nearby attractions, always helpful to know how far are you from an airport, how far are you from, the downtown, maybe there's a, kind of like a restaurant district, or there's an entertainment district, things that you can have on your own website, but also things that you should be adding to the different listing pages that are available online. So you want to fill out those profiles in full as much as you can and give as much context as possible. And then last but not least, reviews. Not all websites allow you to have reviews or allow reviews to be written within the platform, but if it is a platform that has reviews, you do want to push your customers that you do have a good relationship with to go in, add a review, say something nice, make sure that you have your best customers out there, because that customer touch, that customer testimonial can be a differentiator when people are looking at different profiles online. So this is just kind of a tip for you. I think thinking about mobile, I think this is kind of the key slide that we have here on mobile for today, but one of the things that we see across the entire Social Tables network, so we have a network that allows planners to submit RFPs across different channels. We see that about 20% of RFPs are coming through mobile or tablet, and about 20% of website traffic and visitors. So as you're thinking about your own hotel page and your own website experience, there has to be a certain level of mobile capability there, or else you're really kind of missing that entire 20%, 25% of the audience. So something to think about: if you don't have anything mobile optimized and you're not on any websites that are showing up from a mobile standpoint, or maybe you don't look great in Google's mobile search results or anything like that, something to consider that improving that could be an automatic 20% increase if you're doing nothing today. So here's some small tips on that, but just thinking about in general, if you're missing out on 20%, that could be really low-hanging fruit to have a big boost for next year if you could invest in some of that technology. Here's a few providers. So we've talked a lot about it. We want to make sure that it's applicable for everybody. So there's a lot of different places online that you can go to make sure your venue has the proper information, updated collateral. I think it's always good to make sure whenever you're getting new collateral that you kind of have that checklist of places that you want to go update, make sure you have a consistent brand, consistent assets. These are a few of those. I'm sure you know many more, but we thought these are some of the biggest ones that you might want to go check in on. What does your profile look like there, and can you do more to improve it? So that was the first section. Second section, RFP management. So like we said at the beginning, it's really easy. The click of a button, event planners can send 10 to 20 RFPs very, very quickly, and it's causing an issue where brands are mandating that you respond within certain time limits. It's not easy to do. You want to be able to respond to the right people at the right time. So this is one that I think is pretty exciting and pretty cool. So I'm going to talk about the technology as a whole, and then I'm going to let Melissa and Meredith chime in on how they're seeing customers use things like this. So one of the things that we think is really important when you're looking at an RFP management technology are the bullets on the left. So one, lead generation. Does that RFP management technology give you the ability to capture leads on your website? Something to consider if you're kind of putting together a checklist for what you would want to buy in this kind of category. Number two, does it give you the ability to score those leads? So when a lead comes in, can you start to rank the leads, whether it's 0 to 100 or A, B, C, D, things like that? Can you score those so that your team can prioritize, maybe filter their lead list or sort by those scores and really focus on the ones that are the highest priority? The third bullet is called lead enrichment. Again, something to consider for your property. There's services out there and online that you can essentially, when a lead comes in with an email address, it'll fill in more information. So you can see here what we have is a screenshot of what we have at Social Tables for our technology. A lead came in. It's our CEO, Don Berger, and we pulled in information like what organization does he come from, what are maybe some keywords that are important to him, those tags there, how many employees are at his company, what's the name of the company, where's the company located, and we have other things like links to Facebook and Twitter and Google. So there are things that can help you start to understand maybe more about that company, right? If it's maybe it's an email address you don't recognize, you can enrich that. And then the other two things is templates to respond. So with a click of a button, can you respond? And then the analysis of that. So when you send that RFP, can you see what page did they look at? Which package did they spend the most time on? Did they even open it? So those are some technology pieces. I'm going to go back to Melissa. How are you what are some of the use cases that you're seeing people apply to things like this when you talk to them?
So I think there's a lot of use cases, and I think there's actually a lack of options out there of this piece of Social Tables that really gives you the ability to kind of take a deeper dive into who's actually inquiring so that your team knows who they're reaching out to. So a lot of properties I talk to, I think, find this helpful for a couple of different reasons. One, again, having the knowledge of who you're reaching out to, they can better prioritize those leads. They can get in touch with the ones who are going to be a really good fit for their property based on what they determine to be qualified and not necessarily just what general consensus is. Two, I think having, yes, a mobile-friendly version, but also just having a very clean, easy to read professional response that you can send out quickly through the templates is super important today, where there is a culture of trying to be the first one to reach them in the most professional way. And three, I think the engagement, having that knowledge of understanding what they're looking at and seeing if they actually are interested and engaged in what you're sending us, that you could potentially send something different next time. or engage in a different way to be able to follow up accordingly. So I think those are all key factors in what planners have said has been really helpful and what properties are really excited about.
Got it. And then, so Meredith, for maybe folks that are, maybe if they're, someone's a GM, or maybe if they're a management group and they're above property and they're on this webinar, how can you help them communicate? How could you help a property communicate to someone like that would need to help on the buying side of this, the difference between probably what they're using today, where you've been in the different sales and catering systems that people use on property, and it's a little bit old school, it's a little different. Help them, like, what would be a talk track that you would tell your GM where it's like, hey, we need to invest in this, and kind of like, here's why?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of pieces. One, just like Melissa spoke to, at the click of a button, being able to create a proposal that's more akin to, like a custom website in a way, that a planner can kind of like click through, interact with, navigate with, even on their iPhone as they're running between appointments, is huge. Two, also being able to very quickly reject business in a professional way that allows them to come back to you in the future. Just saves them a lot of like labor costs, right? So if I'm a sales manager and I have 30 leads a day that I need to respond to, probably only 10 of them we're able to even accommodate. So the faster I can get to those 10, the more time I can spend in my day prospecting other people that we do want to engage with. Lastly, the analysis piece, I think that this is something that is brand new to hotel space. When I moved from hotels to tech, learning that I could see when a prospect opened up my email or read my proposal or was looking at my proposal right now is something that I never had access to at the hotel. And quite frankly, if it gives you a notification that says, hey, Susie has opened up the proposal, she's looked at the pricing page for 10 more minutes than she's looked at anything else, you can give that person a call right away. And again, it's just the sales manager's time, not kind of just fishing around. It's very targeted, specific actions that are going to produce better results.
Awesome. So perfect. Hopefully that was a great crash course for everybody on why a kind of a more robust RFP management technology might help your property. I know that's kind of a new topic. It's not something that people are used to. So hopefully that gives you enough ammo and enough information to check out the options online for yourself and maybe dive into it more and talk to maybe the manager on your team or look at getting budget approved for that the next year. So here are a few other things, and I know we've spent a decent amount of time on this already, so I'm not going to go too deep into here. But these are just some things, again, if you're creating that kind of talk track for why this is important, 300% increase in RFP leads over the past 5 years. So if you're one of those properties that's in that bucket that you're seeing a huge increase in RFP leads, that's a great stat to explain why you need technology. Imagine doing something with technology that you did back before there was a 300% increase in what was coming in at you. So that's something to think about. The other piece is 75% of proposals are won by one of the first 5 to respond. So the speed of response is key. Another item that you'd like to communicate where it's like, hey, if I can't get these back, I'm not going to win these deals. Things like this can reduce the response time from 2 weeks to 24 hours, and that's mainly because you can very quickly identify who to respond to, and it's easy to do it. So again, just some bullet points, some ideas for if you're looking at putting this into a budget, how you might want to communicate that and talk about it. Last but not least, just kind of a unique idea that we've seen from our customers is the idea that you might think you don't have as much space as you do. So people are really focused on just the room block. So am I making enough money off of rooms? There's obviously other ways that you can make money, and when you start to put that into a proposal, you can itemize that out. It's whether it's food and beverage, whether it's using space that maybe you weren't using before, if there's like a patio, if there's a large foyer space, you can start to make money off of different places that aren't just room revenue. So focusing only on rooms is something that if you do have a technology that allows you to customize what you're sending back, you can get more creative than just here's the price for rooms. So really quickly, we have a question from Greg that I'm going to ask. His question was, can the client print or download the RFP for offline use or sharing with the committee? So that's a great question, and I'll let Melissa answer that. So on a proposal for the kind of a web-based proposal product, is that something that they could download, or is it only the link?
Yeah, so you can export any of the proposals, and the great part is it is really customizable. So as you're going through the process with them, you can, start by not having any pricing in there and add it down the road, or, change the pricing that you might have once quoted them. So it's kind of a way to constantly update the information, just like you do in a Google Doc. And then once it's final, you can certainly export all that information and have something physical on hand.
Awesome. Great question, Greg. Thank you. All right. Oh yeah. So this is one of the things that we wanted to ask Meredith about. But when it comes to revenue management, we have a whole revenue management section. But when it comes to revenue management, if I'm on the sales team or I'm maybe in catering, what are the types of things, or how can I communicate to a revenue manager the value of a group that I'd like to bring in-house if maybe they're not seeing it?
Yeah, I think that this is, the classic tale between sales managers and revenue managers, especially from my days in catering sales, where it's not super tied to overnight rooms. Like, why is this group worth this space for this price, right? So I think that a really interesting piece about this is the more detailed you can get in the food and beverage options that you're offering to the client and that they're accepting in a proposal phase, the more value you're really able to drive as to how much this person's really going to spend. I know it can be easy when you're responding to a lot of people, you're in a time crunch, to just send over the banquet menus and say, well, they have the menus and they might spend about $5,000 in food and beverage. Whereas if you take a moment to use a customized template that has really robust food and beverage packages that they're agreeing to, it really helps you guarantee that you're going to make the food and beverage minimums and revenues that you're looking to hit for that space at that time.
Sure.
So kind of like utilizing more of the tools to get that information out faster.
Yeah, and one of the great things about having a template is that obviously you could work with a revenue management team to make those templates and help you create packages that are high margin, so that when you're sending it out, you don't have to think about it. It's a package they've already seen, and you're not reinventing the wheel every time. So those are some thoughts on the RFP management technology. So who are some people that can help you with RFP management technologies? Here are a few names, maybe names that you've seen in the past, or maybe names that you're already using. Again, we want to make sure that it's tangible, so you can, if you are interested in this, you are thinking about budgeting it, here's a few options that you can look to. Maybe you have a friend that's used these and you want to ask them about it, but a few names, a few logos. I'm sure most of these are very familiar to everyone, and nothing new there, but we still want to make sure that a tangible takeaway for you. All right, so a quick case study on this is actually a Social Tables customer, the Camelback Resort, and they've been using our kind of RFP management technology. They're responding to leads quickly, and for them, the best way that they've found to use it is a quick template that they can then send right away. But the key is the templates are pretty flexible, right? So you can create a custom template. You can take that template, customize it very quickly, sub out a name, sub out a welcome message, put in a logo, all the things that are kind of difficult to do in Microsoft Word. You have to go find a logo, you have to format it, you have to make sure it didn't mess up the indent on your page, whatever it is. So this is a quick way to do that, and we do have that case study available on our website if you want to take a look. All right, so getting into our next technology tip is the event management world. So a lot of people, I think about event management and they think, that's for the planner, that's event planner software. And one of the things that we've seen from successful hotels at Social Tables is properties that take on a little bit of a different mindset, where they think about event management technology as how can we as a property execute on our events better, communicate better, collaborate with our own internal team and our customers in a better way. So it's not right now, it's not ticketing, it's not registration, what a lot of people think of event management on the planner side. This is more, as a property, what are we doing to improve how we operate and execute our events? So that's a little bit of context for where we're going to head next. So again, we like to start out with some stats and some info. So 37% of planners say bad communication is the #1 reason they go with another venue. And then 80% of planners say their job requires more experience, creation than ever. So what's the correlation here? So one, obviously, if there's bad communication with the property, those planners are leaving and really not coming back. And two, the fact that planners are having to create experiences more than just send over, I need food and beverage for this many people, schoolroom, that's it. The fact that that's totally shifting in their job where they need to create unique experiences. You know, we've all read the reports about millennials and experiences and, you know, how they're interacting differently. This is part of why this is now an 80% stat where they're changing what their job is. So event management technology really comes in handy there. So I don't know, Melissa, if you want to talk about how clients, when they're looking at software like this, what are the types of things that they're hoping to improve, you know, as they're evaluating software that can help them communicate?
Yeah, I think communication is definitely key here. So most of the properties I talk to laugh when they get to this part because their biggest obstacle is communicating effectively, communicating timely, but also not having that long back and forth email chain that tends to be just ever flowing in this industry. So I think the biggest key is because Social Tables is not only cloud-based, but does have the ability to share what you're working on and collaborate with as many people as possible, that being internal stakeholders or external stakeholders in the event, and could be directly with your client, could be with an outside catering team, or anything like that. So I think having that real-time change and communicating those changes. I've even talked to properties who, you know, will schedule a 5-minute call with their planners and clients so that they can actually show them what they're moving around to make sure there's no miscommunication or confusion on what they're doing. So it's certainly a huge obstacle that properties are facing today, and I think this is a really positive way to make that shift.
And Meredith, can you talk a little bit about how it can help just 100% internally? Like, what does that look like in terms of how people could use this?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, the other communication gap there is between sales and events and the banquet team and everyone else who's actually, you know, putting the tables in the right places. The good news about this is that, kind of like Melissa was saying, the way you interact with your customers, it's the same way you interact internally. So everything's updating all at once. Everyone can have access to the same things at the same time. All the way up to the little details of like a really quick and easy export of all the equipment that someone needs to gather in an orderly fashion. Make sure that everybody is able to do their jobs in all the different ways that they need to off the same exact diagram. So you can print it in different ways, communicate with it in different ways based on what your team needs to be successful.
Perfect. All right. So we'll kind of keep moving on these because we've got about 20 minutes left. But other things to think about when it comes to event management technology is these are things, you know, from a Social Tables point of view. These are products and these are features that, you know, you can use as a property, but you can also let those planner customers use as well. So you can think of it as a value add to working with your property, where they could use a seating chart or they could upload a guest list and use check-in. So just nice features. It makes it, you know, a more seamless experience to work with you in the property, giving planners the tools they might not have. So as you're looking for technology in the event management world, checking in, is it a collaborative technology? Is it a technology where I can share features with my planner, or is this only internal? Am I paying by the number of users? How does all that work? Those are things to look into and think about as you're evaluating technology in this space. And something that kind of Meredith touched on is the idea of, you know, working with the sales team. So again, evaluating technology is important. How many people at the property can use it? One of the nice things about, you know, Social Tables, for example, here is that we can have, you know, a 2D of the space that you use operationally, but that can also be a 3D visual of the space as well for upsells. So whether that's an upsell on the sales team side, you know, before winning the contract, or maybe it's an upsell on the you know, the catering or the event management side around, you know, maybe a different space, more AV, you know, more bars, more banquet, like what else can you help someone visualize and see, especially with some of the non-professional planners that people are seeing come in more and more in planning more events. Again, as you're looking for technology in this space, something to really hone in on is how easy is it to go in and find what you need and quickly get out. You know, we know in the hotel and venue world, you don't want to be at your desk all day. You don't want to be interacting with technology. We're a people first kind of industry. So being able to get in, get what you need, send it out, and being able to find it quickly, looking at last year's event that went well, maybe even taking last year's customer event and just recreating it so that you have it ready to go. those are all things, kind of features that you want to look at as you're evaluating technology in this space that help you, do things quickly and not have to go reinvent the wheel every time, use templates from last time, go find, the diagram from 3 or 4 years ago and use that. So again, just some general tips as you're looking for event management technologies. Here are 3 options. Again, some of you might have heard of in the past that are going to help you do things like this. And for those of you that didn't see the update, Eventry used to be a company called eTouches. So if you're curious what that brand is and why you might not have heard of it yet, it is eTouches. They rebranded. So, but again, a couple options you can dive into and take a look at and see if it's something that you all want to do. Again, ending with the case study, and this case study is also available online on Social Tables' website, but it comes from the Sheridan Commander around how collaborative event planning helped them work with event planners and really start to change how they plan events at their property and pulling their customer in, really making them part of that process, which helps with repeat business, repeat bookings, positive word of mouth, all that good stuff. So check it out. It's on our website if you want to take a look and understand how they're using more collaborative event software at their property. Whoops. Okay. Number 4, hotel and venue marketing. So again, we're going to talk a lot about online and how do you personalize some of the experience when you're working with a planner. So this goes back to kind of that when you're putting things into a venue sourcing product, what can you do there? And this is more focused on your website, so venue marketing technology on your own website. And a lot of the same details that are important to put into overall venue sourcing platform are important to put into your website as well. Thinking about the content that you're putting up. Do you have the right content? Is it customizable? Can you see reporting and tracking? Can you see website visitors? Can you see how many leads you're getting? All important things to make that ROI study if you want to increase for next year or if you want to improve the ROI of a purchase that you made. These are all things that you want to think about when it comes to a marketing technology that would go into your website. Again, kind of 2 stats that we've talked about in the past. It's that 42% is intermediated and 50% of planners are booking online. So again, similar story to the venue sourcing, but this is more for your website. Is your website easy to do business with? Like, are you a business that someone can come online and get something done? And if you are, you're way ahead of the game, and people aren't going to go through third parties, and they are going to come direct to you. And for those 50% of planners that are finding spaces online and looking online, you're going to make that short list, which gives you a bigger leg up. So, I would highly suggest a website audit. Take a look at, is it easy to do business with us from a group standpoint? And if not, what could you do to improve on that? So a couple things when it comes to content. A lot of planners that were surveyed says video content is preferable to photos and even virtual reality. So I know a lot of hotels and websites are looking for virtual reality, trying to use kind of this new age technology. That's great, very cool. But a lot of what planners say is video is preferable to videos or photos, sorry. And you want to make sure that you have probably a mix of both, right? Not everyone wants to watch videos, at work or maybe on their phone. And then being able to use those videos in marketing campaigns to really showcase and highlight your space are things to think about. So when you're looking at budgeting for marketing going into next year, is video something that you have in there? If it's not in there, can you swap something out? Can you add additional budget for that? But video, being able to understand the space, is a big part of what planners are looking for. We've talked about this as well, making sure that whatever you're investing in from a marketing standpoint on your website is mobile friendly. So fun stat, by 2020, mobile e-commerce will account for 54% of all online sales. And consistent brand presentation across channels also boosts revenue. Realistically, for a hotel, it's going to boost your conversion rate from someone visiting to coming through and submitting a form. So if someone's searching for you on a sourcing platform and they're seeing one type of picture and they get to your hotel website and it looks like a different hotel, there's a trust loss there, and there's a good chance that that person's going to say that they don't know what they're going to get and they're not going to reach out. So making sure your content across different channels is in sync really helps make a consistent, full experience for the planner so that they truly understand what they're getting and can trust that information. We've talked about this in the past as well, but making sure that so you can see here, there's a major difference between a floor plan and a capacity chart. Going back to Meredith's point of do I know where I'm buying a seat if I'm going to a concert or if I'm going to a sporting event? This is a way to do that. So interactive, different pieces of content collateral on your website are great ways to accomplish a lot of what we've talked about today. So something like, what Social Tables has here is, you can capture a lead, you can show capacity charts, you can show images of the space, you can show where in the floor plan this is, and those are all helpful things when you're thinking about marketing your space online. A few companies, again, where you can reach out, take a look for more information, understand how they might be able to help you. Here are a few names that you can jot down. Some of them you might have heard of, some of them you might not have. But as you're looking to put together, if the website overhaul is something that you're interested in, here are 4 options that you would probably want to take a look at and understand. If I'm overhauling a website, what can they do for me? So take a look, and if it's part of your budget, these are great places to start. All right, last but not least is technology number 5, revenue management. So this is probably out of the wheelhouse for a lot of people on the webinar today, but we think it's important to talk about revenue management because if you're not working together with a revenue management software, if you're not thinking about how you can integrate there or work with those counterparts, it's really difficult to get your group business as a kind of a high profile option for the property on how to increase revenue, how to get more room nights. So figuring out how do you talk to the other side of the aisle there, we think is key. So from a revenue management standpoint, if you don't have revenue management technology, or maybe you do but you're not used to it, things that revenue management can help out with: revenue maximization, so obviously getting as much into the property as possible. Forecasting is obviously a big one. That impacts the room rates that you're giving. That's going to impact, how far out can you book things and at what, what discount can you give them. Pricing optimization, so that's where you're looping in food and beverage and space. The total guest value. So when you do book people into the property, what's your revenue per occupied room? A lot of people like to talk about revenue per available room, but what's the total amount of revenue that you get when you do bring someone in? So for certain properties, that's going to be a very high number where you can take a hit on the daily rate for the room itself if the amount of revenue you're going to get from a person on property is much higher. So if you don't know that, good to ask, good to know. It gives you, on the group side, it gives you a lot more ammo to say, hey, actually our revenue per available or occupied room is high enough where this piece of business makes sense. And then reporting and some calculation. So Meredith, you used to be in this world.
Yes.
What have you seen from a group standpoint that how can they communicate better with revenue management so that revenue management, they're either asking them the right questions or they're communicating the right information around groups?
Yeah, I think it starts with understanding, the different goals. So, of course, a revenue management team or a piece of technology that is assisting you with revenue management, yes, you want your space to be full at all times, but the interesting thing, of course, as you guys know about revenue management, is that sometimes it's better for the space to be left empty on purpose, whether or not to keep open for a better group, a bigger group based on history, or just based on the cost of operating that space on that day at that time for that kind of group. So it's really easy to get sucked into the I want to book everything that comes in the door that we physically can accommodate. And tools like this kind of help you take a step back and make sure that you're booking the right business at the right price on the right day, which is just a little bit more complex. So the more you can have tools that help you understand why this is a good piece of business, it's so much faster to go up to your revenue manager and say, I need this space on this day, on this time, because 2 years ago, last year, the last 5 years, we have never booked a group on this date. We're not going to get a better piece of business. This is mine. I need to book it. So coming to the table with those pieces of data is really where you're going to win and get quicker decisions to get back to that customer to offer the space. Awesome.
Great advice. So we're going to keep going through revenue management, and I'm going to get everyone out of here on time. I can promise you that. So things to just think about, again, why working with revenue management is important. Group is getting really complex, right? So you have people like Airbnb or VRBO, and that's kind of making a battle for the room block, right? So if you have events that have been coming in year over year, and you start seeing a lot more leakage out of the room block because you have other options, this is a big part of that. There's a lot more inventory in most places that are now connected into, business systems that are trusted by companies, and they can move outside the room block and they can kind of do more of whatever they want. Ancillary revenue is also a big part of that. So thinking about ancillary revenue as you're booking groups is important. So what else could you put into that package that is high value, but maybe easy for you to discount? Something like, half off parking. If it's a local event where people are driving in for the day, maybe instead of comping parking, you make it half off because most people are going to use it, and you comp something else that's pretty cheap or something that you can give in totally for free. And again, on the marketing side, can you segment in a smart way when it comes to RFPs so that you're not trying to put bad pieces of business in front of your revenue management team and kind of losing a little trust there. So kind of things to think about when it comes to revenue management and how you can get involved and what you can do there. Working with your revenue management team on the different segments that you have within groups and meetings. So if you have groups and meetings and maybe you have a corporate team, there's a small and medium events, there's executive offsites. Again, if you can work with those revenue managers to really understand these different segments, craft the right package for them, make sure that the pricing makes sense from a room, food and beverage, and meeting space standpoint. These are ways that you as a team can get ahead of any roadblocks later on. So if you already know how you work with an executive offsites and how the room works and how the F&B works and the pricing and the margins, it's a lot easier to get those out the door. And like Meredith said, it's a lot easier to communicate with the other team so that they understand, okay, it's an executive offsite, this is how we think about them, this is our strategy here, and this is how we're going to price something like that. So just getting ahead of some of those conversations. So we've talked a little about channel mix in the past, but for the most part, we know that people are coming in through OTAs, we know people are coming in through third parties. Don't have to drill too much further into that, but it is important to know what your channel mix is when it comes to groups. So if the majority of your business comes through third parties and you'd like to make a case for investing in technology or investing in different channels, understanding where your business comes from and the costs associated with that is really important. So if it's not something you have, working with your revenue management team to say, my customer acquisition cost on this channel is 30% and over here is 10. And because of that, I'm willing to price higher into this channel, or I'm willing to wait on rooms from these channels because I know it's more expensive. So again, more ammo, speaking their language, all fun things that I'm sure a lot of you have done in the past. So here's some revenue management technologies to take a look at. There's a lot out there. There's different shapes and sizes and flavors for the size of your property, but these are a few of the name brand ones, the ones that we have relationships with, that we know well, that we think provide great products. So if you're not on one of these and you want to take a look at it, feel free to start here and then obviously do your Google due diligence afterwards. So one of the things I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put a poll up. So we'd love to get your feedback on what type of event management and groups and meetings technology are you considering? And if you could just select any of the 5 options and let us know what you're thinking about the most. And I'm going to give it a couple seconds here to see what the outcome is. Currently, we have venue sourcing and direct booking is tied with event management technology for the #1 spot. Venue sourcing and direct booking just took a slight lead over top of event management technology. We have, even bigger lead. 75% of people have responded and said venue sourcing and direct booking technology are where they're going to focus their budget for next year. So thank you everybody for participating in that. I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll. Thank you to everybody that voted. And so that was fun. That was great. So for those of you that weren't listening to the horse race there, the venue sourcing and direct booking technology beat event management technology as the #1 piece of technology out of what we discussed today that people want to invest in. So I think that's great. It's good info for us. Maybe you'll see a future webinar only on that topic, and we'll make sure to reach out to you if that's the case. And with that, we are close on time and open for questions if you have any. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in there. I'll answer them if they come in. But as we're waiting to see if any of those come in, we just want to thank you for joining today. We know it's not easy to get an hour of your time, to dedicate and listen and, some professional development, but also trying to figure out how to improve your business for next year. So we really appreciate you spending time with us this afternoon. Again, you'll get this recorded version sent to you via email. If you want to share that, share it far and wide. You can share it internally. You can share it with friends in different places. We're happy to help out. And if you enjoyed this webinar or anything that we talked about today, we do have a lot of free resources online. If you go to socialtables.com, you can find our resources page. We have free webinars, free ebooks, and ideally lots of great information that you can use as you're getting deep into the budget process. And I think that's it. So I want to thank Meredith and Melissa for taking time out of their day away from talking to customers to talk to me. It was a lot of fun, very helpful to get real world tangible advice from the both of you. So thank you very much. And with that, we have no questions. So either we answered everything on the webinar, which I don't think is the case, or people have to get back to work, which I think is probably the case. But either way, thank you so much, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you at our next webinar. We try to do basically one a month. So be on the lookout. If you enjoyed this, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, everybody.